Do you think that there should be free school lunch for all children?
No.
Why?
Of course not. Because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job.
A child?
No, the parents should go get the job.
Yeah.
This is important. I don't believe
they have jobs and they can't support their children there because the minimum wage is so low.
No, you are a Dem, dude. Don't give me this stuff. First of all, this is really.
I want children to eat.
Of course I do. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. Number two, we have churches, we have food shelters, we have billions, and it does not exist. We have a child obesity problem, not a child starvation problem in this country. That 50% of our kids are obese or overweight. There's not a single kid in America that has died of starvation in the last 10 years. Show me that kid.
A common argument we hear from the left is that conservatives only care about children when they're in the womb. As conservatives, we enjoy the idea of believing that we are the party that supports children the most. But when you look and try and find the ways in which conservatives try and better the life of children in the United States, that's where we can fall short. And this is one of them. A lot of conservatives take part in the idea that children should not have access to free school lunch in public schools. Most of the time, we find that this is for two reasons. Either they say what Charlie is saying in this video, which is that it's a parent's job to feed their children, not the school's job, and not the job of the American taxpayer, or they argue that they don't want their tax dollars going toward paying for free school lunch for children in public schools. Now, both of these are very problematic. Now, looking at Charlie's view, of course he was right in saying, yes, it is a parent's job to provide for their children, whether that be in terms of food or financially. Now, the problem with this idea, just like the college student that he was debating said, is that some parents lack the financial wealth to provide properly for their children in terms of food. According to Feeding America and the USDA, in a study that was done in 2023, about 14 million children faced hunger in the United States. Now, along with this, about 13.5% or 18 million households in the United States had a low level of food security and were considered food insecure. Now, in terms of households with children, 17.5% or 6.5 million households were considered food insecure as well. So statistically speaking, it's definitely a fact that there are starving children in America. Now, people like Charlie, along with other conservatives, have this idea that just because there is a child obesity problem in the United States, which there is, according to the CDC in 2020, about 14.8 million children were considered to be medically obese. So of course, yes, there is a child obesity problem in the United States, but there is also very much a child starvation problem in the United States. If we look at the numbers, it's roughly the same too. 14 million children faced hunger in 2023, and in 2020, 14.8 million children were considered obese. What we as conservatives need to realize is that not everything is a binary. Just because one thing is true does not mean that the other cannot also be true. It's common knowledge that the US has an obesity problem. It's also common knowledge that the US has a child obesity problem. But even with that said, just because that's true doesn't mean the opposite can't also be true. Statistically, we know there are starving children in the United States. There are parents who can't afford to properly feed their children, just as much as there are children who are being overfed and are considered to be obese. So the idea that Charlie and a lot of conservatives are pushing, which is that just because there are obese children in the United States, there can't also be starving children, is false. Now, I also want to take a second to address the other ideology that's being pushed. A lot of conservatives will argue that they don't want their tax dollars going toward paying for free school lunch for children in public schools, specifically because they think it would be a waste of money. The problem with that is, if we think about everywhere else that our tax dollars go, there's no way you could really argue that feeding children would be a waste of money. Currently, there are over 1 million incarcerated people in the United States. In almost every single corrections facility in the United States, those individuals are fed 3 meals a day. That is more than 3 million free meals that are fed to criminals, people who commit heinous acts against society, for free. We are literally, as a country, feeding millions of criminals 3 meals a day for free. But some conservatives have a problem with feeding children in public school 1 meal a day because they don't want their tax dollars going toward that. Where's the logic in that? And it is also true what the student debater said. For some children, school lunch is the only meal they get in a day because their parents cannot afford to properly feed them. So not only is this ideology that's being pushed by most conservatives incorrect, both statistically and logically, but it also provides a very bad outlook on the conservative view overall. Like I said in the beginning, most conservatives will tell you that they're anti-abortion. Most of them will tell you that because there is a life in the womb, and that life is innocent and does not deserve to die. And we as conservatives like to make the point that we are the ones who protect children from being killed in the womb, from being forced to share bathrooms and locker rooms with the opposite gender, from being forced to share sports with the opposite gender, from being indoctrinated into believing that a man can be a woman and then that a woman can be a man. We believe that we are the ones who actually protect them. But how much are we really protecting children if we're allowing some of them to starve because their parents are negligent? Yes, it is a parent's job to feed their children, but some parents cannot. And some parents are negligent. By removing free lunch from public schools, we'd be punishing children and not the parents who are negligent. So overall, this just proves the left's point. Of course, we care about children when they're in the womb, but does this really prove that we care about all of them if we are allowing the 14 million of them that are facing hunger to starve? Just because we don't want our taxpayer dollars going toward feeding them, or we don't want to do the parents' job because it's their job to feed them, or because we don't really believe that it's necessary to feed children since they're already being fed at home because there's no such thing as a child starvation problem, which there is. The point in saying all of this is that if we're going to be consistent as conservatives and we are going to claim that we care about children and we protect children, we need to make sure we're doing that across the board, not just before they're born and not just when it comes to ideologies that we find dangerous. Children are forced to be in school for 8 hours a day. Within that 8-hour day, they are forced to go through gym class. Some kids have sports, and not only that, but they're learning for that full 8 hours. The schools themselves are already paid for by taxpayer dollars. What difference does it make if every child is given one free meal within that 8-hour span? Believe it or not, feeding children one free meal a day in school has no financial or economic impact. However, not feeding some of those children, some of whom are not fed at home, will have detrimental impacts, such as the death of children. So as conservatives, we need to be more consistent across the board in making sure that we are both protecting, feeding, and caring for children, both before birth and after. Otherwise, we just go on to prove the left right.